This is Robert Clotworthy, the narrator of The Curse of Oak Island, and I have a question for you. Could it be that you are listening to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream?
This is a top pocket find, mate, for sure.
Whoops. All right, let me get that off there real quick. Oh my gosh, I forgot I was still on there. Let's see if I can get rid of it. Uh-oh. There we go. There. All right. Hey, everybody.
Yay.
Oh, comedy
Hello.
of errors today. Welcome to the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. I am your host, Jeff Freeman. And today, Gretchen Cornwall is here, of course, and John Edwards has popped in. So welcome to you two. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
The reason that I have John Edwards here is because we have a little bit of a snafu with, so I say snafu, bad weather, I think, has hit over in the UK. Gretchen can elaborate on this here in just a moment. And I believe it's knocked out the power for our guest today, Graham Phillips. He's been no response from him whatsoever. We hope he's okay. But tell us, was there a big storm in the UK last night or was it yesterday?
Yes, last night, a very rare event because they issued 2 red warnings.
Wow.
And usually in the UK, you only get 1 red warning issued. And we had 1 over London and 1 in Wales.
Oh, wow.
So it was a strange event. And in Wales on the coastline, they had winds of 122 miles an hour.
That's like hurricane.
They had to shut bridges down. A truck got picked up and chucked down, and unfortunately 4 people lost their lives in England and Wales. Falling tree branches, damage to buildings. A friend down the street had his roof tiles come off. The O2 Arena, this massive arena in London that can seat 50-some thousand people, a good portion of the roof was torn off.
Oh, wow.
So it's been nasty. It's been nasty, and absolutely the country just shut down. And we haven't heard from our hoped for anticipated guest, Graham, because he probably doesn't have any power.
Wow.
A lot of people are without power today.
Yeah, that's what we're assuming, that he doesn't have any power. We've sent him messages throughout the day today, and there's been absolutely no response. He has not even read them, which is why we're assuming that he's without power today. But we were gonna, there was some interesting things. We do have some links in the description below that are for Graham for his website that he has. And also some interviews and things that some productions that he's done on YouTube. And of course, if you go to YouTube, you can find them all. But we were going to really get down to the meat and potatoes of some of the information that he had. And I just wanted to cover some of those things. As you know, that Graham is he started off, I guess, as a reporter for the BBC Radio. And he was also and we're going to have to, John, you and I are going to have to talk to him about this when we get him on. He was the founder of Strange Phenomena magazine.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so that's BOW. That's a Beyond Our World stuff.
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
Absolutely.
But he was researching King Arthur, trying to determine whether or not he was a real person or just a fictional character. And he has some really very interesting insights on that. And then that kind of led him into King Arthur's search for the Holy Grail, which ended up going, well, I think that was the Alabaster Cup. You have a book there, I think. Book.
Yeah. He's not saying that it is the Holy Grail. He is saying it is a grail. And certainly the knight, the noble family involved, the knight in question went on crusade and brought back a very small alabaster cup, which the knight believed belonged to Mary Magdalene. And that it's a fascinating story. And what I find so intriguing is that the castle involved becomes filled with clues, stained glass windows that point the way.
Yes, that's really cool right there.
And Graham found it. He pinpointed it by following the clues in a stained glass window.
Wow.
He traced the a woman who lived nearby, and was able to recover the object. And it's fascinating. It's a marvelous story. An antiquarian ancestor of this family wrote a poem filled with clues as to where to look to find this grail that this family has protected since the 1200s, if I remember correctly. But yes, on the far right, you see what should be St. James, but there's no dragon coming out of the chalice.
Actually, and that's John. Yeah, John. Yeah.
Oh, forgive me. Yes.
Yep, yes, John.
Yes.
But yeah, there's supposedly the dragons coming. They always show him with the dragons coming out, which is supposed to be poison in it or something like that, right?
Yeah. His cup had been poisoned, and the miracle was the poison came out in the form of a dragon, and he then was able to drink from the glass. Right. So he is always shown with a cup with a dragon in it. But here you have a suspiciously feminine-looking individual, minus the dragon in the chalice. And this is the Victorian window that the antiquarian Thomas White, I think, put together for the local church. Yeah. And there is an eagle above it as well. Yeah, we'll tell the whole story, or we'll spoil it for you.
Yeah, we'll spoil it for Graham. I know, and I don't want to do that.
When I saw the video about this, it was actually an interview on television. Yeah. Very short, only 15 minutes, and truly worthy of a good hour or more. Mm-hmm. But I know Jeff and I, we've been just wound up in the story of what he achieved. And I really appreciated his work on Arthur as a historical figure, as a Romano British war chieftain. Yep. And he's just done some fabulous work.
Yeah, and then that led to the Alabaster Cup story because of King Arthur looking for the Holy Grail. And then there's information about the Welsh king. But anyway, he's got some books out there that he's written. He's co-authored a couple of books: The Green Stone, The Eye of Fire, King Arthur, The True Story, Robin Hood. He's looking into the background of Robin Hood. And then he's got some solo books, which was the Magdalene, the Cup of Magdalene, and I didn't say that name properly. I'm sorry, but which I guess started off as the search for the Grail, and then it evolved into the Chalice of Magdalene. Thank you. Right. The Act of God. I mean, he's written some really, really cool books.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna be getting get him rescheduled at some point and bring him back on the show, or bring him on the show for the first time. But we just hope that he's okay with the storm that went through there, and 120 some mile winds,
122 mile an hour winds.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh, we just hope he's okay.
Damage, injuries, power outages. They've actually got snow up in Scotland, but to have two red warnings, the little triangles, they flash at you, amber warning, whatever. We had two, one over London and one over Wales. And then in the afternoon, they flashed two red triangles over Wales, as in, for heaven's sakes, don't go out. So yes.
So we're praying he's okay.
I hope so.
Yeah. What's crazy about that for our American viewers, that's equal to a Category 3 hurricane.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I've forgotten.
A Cat 3, it's 111 to 129. So
there you go.
I mean, can you imagine having sustained hurricane force winds in parts of the world that normally don't get those type of winds? The structures aren't used to it. Has there been any structural damage?
Unfortunately, there was a house in Wales where this mother had her little girl, 5 years old, and the roof where the little girl was in got ripped off. They were able to get out without any injury. No damage here. I'm on the East Coast. And it's just a little bit more protected here from Atlantic fury. Certainly things were blowing around the garden, things were being knocked over, the trash cans got knocked over. I had to dash down the street and collect the You
You were
know,
telling that story earlier.
The
I'm just
rubbish.
seeing you dashing down the
it
street,
was
red
rough.
hair
I
flowing,
mean,
and you're chasing down a bag.
it was rough. I actually put there were some spare bricks, and I put them on top of these big bins, trash bins, and it just went. The lids came off again as if it didn't matter a jot, and the bins went over again. So I just left them there.
Wow.
And garden debris was blowing around. It wasn't nice, and I'm glad that we didn't lose power here.
Right.
So
We were afraid you both might. That's very true. Yeah.
well,
I
there's
know.
these
Go ahead.
they're tall Kentish chimneys. The county of Kent is called the Garden of England. It's quite a big county, very prosperous county for farming. Very lush county, and the tradition of having very tall chimney stacks, decorative, twisting bricks, and these things are like 6 feet tall and more. Wow. And we unfortunately we did lose in town a heritage chimney stack, so that was a bit sad. Hopefully we can rebuild that. But
wow.
Unfortunately, the damage, that comes like that, for sure. Like I said, let's do that, John. So I did see some folks popping in here, and because this is not, I don't usually do these on guest interviews or guest shows. I hate calling them interviews, just guest appearance shows. But we got several people popping in here today. We're gonna kind of we'll give you some interesting information that John and Gretchen can share with us here in just a few moments. Let's give a couple of shout outs to some of the people. Anne Marie, of course, is always here from Germany. Hi, Anne Marie. Glad you're here. Let's see who else we got today. BC St. Jean is here. Judy Rudabush is here. Hi, Judy.
Hey, Judy.
Judy.
Yeah, I know, Judy, and so I apologize for those who have just maybe logged in. We do not have Graham Phillips here today. We believe he is without power in the UK after a severe storms. Double red triangles, according to Gretchen, which is really bad. So he's not here with us. We're going to have to get him rescheduled, unfortunately. So Curtis Bennett's here. Sarah Jane Smith. Hi, good evening from the UK. Oh, how did you fare, Sarah, over in the UK with the storms that went through there? Let's see, Curtis Bennett, Bonnie Goodine. Let's see. Marie Elizabeth's here. Hi, Elizabeth. Tracy Benjamin's here. Luke. Hey, Luke. How you doing? Karen Howard. Don Wagger. Houston, Texas. Dave. I'm looking over on the YouTube side now. Let's see. Indy's Antics is here. It's odd. Let's see. What did I see over here that has been gone? Houston, Texas. Dave. Yeah, Paula Steen. Hi, Paula. Sandala Ray. Ray D. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there were some folks here before the show even started. So let's see. Jeff's in the house. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Glad to see you here. Let's see. Karen Falbo. So really, and Jan asked a question, and it was on this picture right here, I believe. And Jan was asking, she said, I think something about, what does it say on the banner? I cannot read that. I have no idea what that says. I don't know if Gretchen can. I know Graham. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit on it. Let's see here.
Well, we're only getting part of it as well.
Yeah, I know. I can't
not
read.
the whole thing. Maybe we could ROM. I believe it's Latin.
Yeah, ROMM, and I don't know what that.
Maybe it means commandments.
Yeah, commandments. Maybe. Yeah.
It could be stylized lettering.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll have to ask Graham about that. I don't know what
these my commandments. Looks like the word keep.
Keep my commandments. It does. You're right. I think it does say keep my commandments.
Yeah, keep my commandment. Yes.
Now, what's interesting is that particular image is holding a grail, and the grail has always been associated with the sacred feminine. So it's just kind of an interesting symbol that figure is holding.
Scroll that he's holding, it looks like a scroll container or something over here on this side. I say, yeah. And it's funny is the other picture. Look at all these guys. Now this is Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and supposedly John.
Right.
But look at these guys. Look how the beards and the gray hair, and then all of a sudden you got this person here at the end. Was John supposed to be that much younger than they were?
He's always been depicted as a bit effeminate, younger. And I think it is an opportunity to express femininity and to hide femininity. And Mary Magdalene is always pictured with a grail. And as we were talking about before we went on air, this chalice does not have the expected dragon in it that John is always associated with in his cup. So that is missing.
Yep.
And Graham believes it's a fascinating story that he discovered the Mary Magdalene's cup. And so that's what this is supposed to represent here.
It's very reminiscent to Da Vinci's Last Supper representation of John / possibly Mary Magdalene. So in coded in a similar way.
I did send you a few images, Jeff, of a Last Supper. I don't know if you can pull up the one with the blonde woman.
That's and who do you remember who painted that one?
This is a German artist. I don't recall the name, but the German artist obviously, I mean, this is quite a feminine individual. And what's interesting about that is that Christ is holding up his hand in the M hand sign. And that, I believe, is down to Cassiopeia. In the night sky, she's either revolving into the letter M or the letter W. And you often see her depicted, Cassiopeia or the letter M depicted like this in art or like that in art. So because it revolves around the North Star. And they're wearing the same color clothing here as well. So you know, Graham Phillips, like myself, like other authors, do think that Mary Magdalene may have been the partner of Jesus, and that they had children. So.
I know that doesn't, you know, as a Christian, of course, that doesn't go along with my belief.
Well,
there is a case to be made that maybe, you know, I'm not going to throw it out the window.
No, it's a challenging piece of business for a lot of people, but millions have taken it on board. What's interesting about Christianity is that there are 35,000 different Christian sects.
I know,
in the
that's
world.
the thing. You're right. Yep.
So I can't even begin to contemplate that. But whatever you think or believe, there seems to appear in Europe, of course, a tradition of thought that you can see in artists, strange writings, cryptic writings, statuary that aren't quite right. And you end up asking the question, well, what did that artist really think? So there appears to have been, you know, a dual concept of you know, the original Jesus, and
there was this one too. Sorry, this might be the other one you were talking about.
That's an interesting one as well. So John again is depicted as leaning on his shoulder or his bosom, but rather effeminate. So and Greg can certainly go into more of that when he visits with us. Hopefully, you know.
We can get him on.
What's interesting, Jeff, is there is a tradition. I'm not saying it's right or not, but there is a tradition that Magdalene was taken by Joseph of Arimathea to the south of France or England, and she was ushered away after the crucifixion. Now, I'm not saying that's fact, but if enough people believe it, there is a reality that line of thought. You know, I always say line of thought shapes history, and so there are many bloodlines, many royal families that might have believed they were descendants of Magdalene and the children of Jesus. Now, whether that's true or not, it hasn't been vetted. I have no evidence of that. But there are traditions that say that, and if a tradition says that, and enough people believe that in that tradition, then it shapes history. It becomes a reality, even if there's no factual evidence for it. You know, ideas can shape history.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was Judy said the painting you are showing shows a more familiarity between Jesus and the closer person. Yeah, that was the other one. Yeah, it is. And this was Leonardo's one here. Now that's the one that Leonardo da Vinci had painted, and you see their colors opposite, the red and blue, and of course, and then there's the people that said, well, it can't be Mary Magdalene because women of that time were supposed to be wearing a head covering, and this person is not wearing a head covering. So, but then you got pictures of Mary Magdalene to go on in other paintings of the time or later time that shows her without one many times. And then they're saying, well, she couldn't have been a disciple. Well, why not? I mean, the apostles, you got the 12 apostles, but the disciples that followed around, there was 70 to 100 of them that followed Jesus around there toward the end. There was a mix of men and women. So, and they were disciples. And there was, like I said, 70 to 100 of them. And so could that have been, a women mixed into that? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for my, I came across a star chart by Julius Schiller, and he was commissioned to Christianize the stars, the constellations.
Oh, wow.
And this was in 1623 or 1625, something like that. But it is in my book here. But what's interesting about this, I'll see if I can get the image up for you here. I apologize. What's interesting about this image is that you have Mary Magdalene in the new constellation chart, where the constellations, instead of being Greek, they've been replaced by Christian stories. You've got Noah's Ark, you've got the Ark, you've got various other images. You have Peter, but Mother Mary is not actually in the star chart.
Really?
His mother is not in the star chart. I've lost my page. I apologize. But what's interesting about it, it's Julius Schiller, 1623, and he died just shortly after it came out, and that is always a bit suspicious when somebody who's done something slightly controversial. And it actually turned out to be controversial because Mother Mary wasn't in it, but Mary Magdalene was. It is in here. I can't find the page. I'll keep looking. But so you have Mary Magdalene taking over the position of Cassiopeia, the throne of heaven. And she revolves around the pole star, the North Star, which is fixed, and that stands for Christ. And she's looking very much like she has a Mona Lisa smile. She's holding a scepter and an empty sarcophagus in front of her. And I'm convinced that Julius Schiller did see the Mona Lisa because it's the same expression. And in the night sky, Cassiopeia revolves around the North Star and looks like an M or a W respectively. And that's where you get... That's where you get this going on.
Right.
And it didn't last long. But what's interesting about this star chart is that Mother Mary's parents were in it. Anne was Mother Mary's mother's name, and her husband, they were in that.
Wow.
So they left her out, but her parents were in, and there was a whole big issue. Bernard de Clairvaux, one of the masterminds behind the Templar Knight Order, did not want to see Mother Mary having been ascended. That's actually a later policy that I'm going to get this wrong, somewhere around the 1400s, a good 100 plus years. No, I'm getting that wrong. But anyway, somewhere in the 1400s, the Catholic Church decided that Mother Mary was of such divinity that she didn't actually die. Her body translated up into heaven.
Right.
And Bernard de Clairvaux was against that. And Europe was at loggerheads with itself over this issue. I mean, it was one thing to have Jesus ascending, but to have his mother ascend. And eventually Mary Magdalene ascends as well. So, but these things take time. Over time, they are brought into law, canon law, they're changed. Mm-hmm. But that is interesting that in this star chart by Julius Schiller, you have her parents, but you don't have Mother Mary. So that's an interesting issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't last. It faded as quickly as it came to being. And Julius Schiller died. He was actually a lawyer. He wasn't a cartographer, mm-hmm. but obviously very gifted. I don't know if he had a team working with him. He might have, but it's filled with Latin. I've got the wrong book. No wonder.
You're it's in which one was that? That's your. Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh gosh.
That's okay. We're flying off the cuff here. Yeah.
I've got a revised version for that image, and I'm looking through here. Where in the world?
While Gretchen's looking for that,
here it is. Here she is. It can't have disappeared. See if I can line this up for you here.
Oh wow, yeah, look at that.
So she's got a beautiful smile, and
wow.
I haven't really had time to look at the rest of the document, but the plates are absolutely beautiful.
Now, which book is that? Show us the cover of that one.
Oh yeah, this is the same book, but okay. I revised. There's a whole new chapter at the end called "The Stars of the Magdalene."
Okay.
And cool. Having to do with her veneration as Cassiopeia over the centuries. I also found the woman who drew this, Herod of Landsberg. This almost looks like a tracing board, but there are clues in here that look very suspiciously like Mary Magdalene. For instance, the arithmetic muse, she is holding a string of beads that have 22 beads on them. Forgive me, I don't know if you can see this or not, but anyway,
not too bad.
And of course her feast day is July 22nd, so you've got 22 beads. Astronomy is holding a jar and is counting what looks like Cassiopeia. She's counting with one hand and holding a jar in the other hand, but anyway, there are just some interesting things that are not quite kosher, so you have these micro heresies throughout
heresies. I like that. Yeah.
Throughout the centuries.
That's a good description. Yep.
Yeah. You get these micro heresies. This is Herod of Landsberg again. And you can see this is geometry, the muse of geometry of the 7 liberal arts. And she's got her compass, her staff, and a very exaggerated M in her skirt as well. So, yeah, so some very intelligent, wealthy people throughout the centuries found themselves thinking of their belief system a bit differently from the populist. The only game in town was Catholicism at one point.
Right. Yes.
So if you were wealthy enough, then you could physically protect yourself and perpetuate in code your alternative ideas.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, here's a picture that John has shared.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Last Supper, also known as the Nisan. How's that pronounced?
Nisan. The spring equinox.
Or the spring equinox, which is
3, 2, 1.
March 21st.
Yes.
So that's really cool.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting.
And they have each of the disciples marked as constellations. There are 12 disciples and 12 constellations.
Oh.
And then the early church did correlate the zodiac with many of the symbols of the disciples. So
yeah.
there you go.
Canterbury Cathedral has these big medallions in the floor from the 1100s, and they are of the astrological symbols, along with imagery of what to do at that time of year when that image is at its height. But I've not seen this before, John. This is the first I have seen.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The groupings.
It's a nice correlation. I mean, I find this fascinating, especially so much the liturgical calendar revolves around the same cycles. You know, with Easter being a time of resurrection, or the spring, new life. You know, different associations of Christian holidays were actually just laid right over top of their pagan, you know, roots. And then it was easy to convert the masses that way. You convert mass amounts of pagans by just putting it over, and eventually the pagan beliefs would die out, and you have Christianity. But you're not changing anything for most people. It's genius when you think about what the fathers of the church did.
Yeah.
John sent another one here. I'll try to bring this one up here real quick. This shows the Cassiopeia that you were just talking about, Gretchen. There we go.
There she is. Yes.
Yeah, so there's the W, and then when it's rolled around on the other side, it would be the M.
Yeah, it revolves around the North Star.
North Star, right?
And it's known as it's the Queen of Heaven, the revolving throne. Often Cassiopeia is seen with a mirror in her hand, and that goes back to the Platonic mystery school, Plato, and the motto above his school was "Know thyself." So the mirror wasn't an image of vanity. It meant get to know who you are, your motivations, the way you think. That way, you know, and that's what we're all trying to do today in this world. We're all trying to figure out who we are, where we belong, what do we really think about things, how to think about things.
Absolutely.
So it's complicated just being human.
Yeah, I know. That for sure. I know. Yeah, that's so true. Just want to give a quick update for those who may have just popped in. We got quite a few people in here right now, and I know some of you may have just come in, and we're expecting to see Graham Phillips. Graham, we believe that Graham, there was a huge storm, 122-mile-an-hour winds coming into Wales. You said
Wales.
Last night or yesterday and last night, and we believe that he is without power. Because he has not been responding to any messages that we have sent him about the show today, like we normally would with our guests. So we're assuming that he is without power. We will get him rescheduled. And then in the last minute ditch effort, I reached out to John, said, John, can you come on with Gretchen? And let's try to, at least talk a little bit about a few things. So, and both of them being so gracious to be able to throw something together real fast to talk about. So that we can, like I said, we got quite a few people here. So, Graham, we talked about some of Graham's information. We don't want to go into that too deeply because we want Graham to do that for us, of course. But I also wanted to ask that, we'll kind of jump around a little bit, but you two made an announcement that you are writing a book together, right? This is awesome. What's and again, I don't want you guys to share stuff that's going to be in the book too much, but what can you tell us about this book?
Well, I for my part, when we met, I was astonished to realize that I was coming at this from my end with constellations that contain codes and potential heresies, and he brought his understanding of medieval constellations to the table, and we were both just astonished by what we had both done. I had Cassiopeia, and he came at it from another direction, and we created a complete picture. So it's been phenomenal, and it's been very synchronistic. We ended up working together on the lower right hand corner of Zena's map.
Zena's map. All right.
I took it in very practical terms. And then he realized there was a philosophy behind one of the images. And I kind of think we should hold back.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to. Some of this is already
some
out
of it needs to be held back.
I did some, when Zena's map came out, and we watched Marty and Rick Lagina go to France, to Chateau de la Rochefoucauld, and speak with Sonia Matosian, and Doug Kroll was there. It was marvelous. Never tell.
That was Tom Burns, by the way. Tom said, "Well, never tell."
I thought, right, okay, I would like to see what I could do with the lower right-hand corner. And my blog's been out there, I believe, since February of 2018. But I discovered that now, I didn't translate the French, but I took the English translation and I went from there. But roughly it says in the lower right-hand corner, Young Lion of Talmont. And South Indians work well. And there's a fish symbol. Now, I'm not coming at Zena's map trying to disprove or prove its authenticity. For me, when I look at that, I see a working document, but for what purpose is the question. So I thought, all right, let's just examine the different elements, see what the elements on the map tell us. And then let's go from there. But let's not just dismiss it, and let's just not say, yeah. I do have an opinion, and I hope that opinion bears fruit. But the lower right-hand corner, I discovered there is an historical individual that fits the bill. Actually, there are two, and they're both of these gentlemen are pinned to Chateau Talmont on the coast of France. And this castle had been owned by Richard the Lionheart. But if you take into consideration the date of 1347 that the map is associated with, there is another individual, Lord Louis Tours. And his helmet, I found his heraldry seal in a Victorian book in French. It's in French. But he has stag horns on his helmet with a lion rampant, I believe that's how you say it, between upright lion between the horns. So he a very successful knight and warrior, fought at the Battle of Poitiers. Unfortunately, for the French, they lost. He did survive the battle, but he didn't have any male heirs. So his daughter married very well. I believe she took the title with her, the coat of arms with her, but that's where the line died out, and there was quite a legal battle over the castle when he passed. And the crown took back the title for a couple hundred years, and for services rendered, dusted it off and bestowed it upon another family a few hundred years later. So it's not the same family anymore. It died after the Young Lion of Talmont, Lord Tours. But Talmont is interesting. I visited there in 2019. Massive castle. It was meant for war. It was meant for war. I do have photographs. I didn't think this was.
All right, we're prepared to bring them. I know.
But I did go to Talmont Castle, and the Cardinal Richelieu destroyed it. The Huguenots came in and leveled everything, and then Cardinal Richelieu came in and leveled everything. I tell you, I would not have wanted to have been a family that had lived in this area for centuries, because I can only imagine how many families got wiped out, what got wiped out. And this pattern went all the way up the coast, hundreds and hundreds of miles of just religious war devastation, and it's so sad. But Tillamook Castle, you can visit it, you can go inside it. It's a shell, but you can go all the way up to the top of the tower. It's spectacularly lit from the inside. They hold concerts there on the grounds. They have jousting as well. It's a remarkable place, but it is set back from the coast, and at one point it was on a river that surrounded the castle on three sides, and it had a harbor arm. You know where I'm going with this, right? So it had a harbor arm, and 6 miles down the road, guess who lived there? There was a Templar property 6 miles down the road.
Yep. Wow.
So now this is a stretch. You know, we can't find anything to prove this, but we are talking about a secret society that was on the run. Was Louis Tours involved with the Templars? Did he help them? Did he own a ship or two? Or was, this was a very, very important fortress and castle, very big one, very strong, up on a huge hill, surrounded by water, and with the Templars 6 miles down the road.
Yeah,
so
wow.
That is very, very interesting. And if you look at the ties between the family that owned that castle for many centuries, there was a marriage between the Rocheficaulds and the family, the Tours family, in 1099.
Wow.
So, Chateau de la Rochefoucauld is what you would think of as landlocked. However, there are river systems that allowed for the Vikings to come up the Charente River all the way up through to this ancient city of Angoulême, which is a Merovingian seat. It's a very ancient town and very important center. There's actually a very important archive center there too, but it was Roman, and it was an important seat to the Merovingians. And so Foucauld, who helped repel Viking incursions, he was the brother of the Limoges family, which is further north.
Okay. I've heard that name somewhere, Limoges, but anyway.
Hang in there. So he goes a little bit further inland and builds a fortress, the beginnings of Chateau de la Rochefoucauld, which has been there in one form or another and continually added to over 900 years. That family has kept their seat for 900 years. That is not an easy feat when you're talking about revolutions, other wars, and France, as we think of it today, was splintered up into smaller kingdoms. So France today didn't exist at that time. So the history is fascinating, but the Vikings were able to get all the way inland to Angoulême. And so Foucauld built Rochefoucauld in answer to the incursions.
Wow.
And of course married into Talmont to gain easier access. You get down the river, but you want a seafaring vessel that can handle the Atlantic Ocean. That's where Talmont comes in, because the river systems are too shallow. You can do it in shallow boats, but you're not going to be able to do it with big vessels. So that's where the alliance comes in between Talmont and the coast. Yeah.
And they did that a lot back then. There was marriages for those kinds of reasons, to help, each other out. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very important place. And so we know who it is. There are actually two potential lions for that castle. and the Templars were just down the road by 6 miles. There's an alliance with Rochefoucauld. We've got the date of 1347, right at the height when things were going badly for France. Calais had been taken in 1346 by the English. So things weren't going very well. And 1346, we're talking living memory of the Knights Templar as well.
Yeah.
So
Jan
the
has
order
a question for you. She said, question for Gretchen. Where are the best places for you to go to find information on specific families? That's one question. Then she said, oops, sorry, I asked two. But she said, and do you go directly to the source?
Okay, that's challenging. You have to be patient if you're looking. I do not read medieval French. I've gotten better over time with a bit of Latin and a bit of French. I'm able to pick out a few things. You do need to go to French sources if you're looking for Templars in France. If you can hook into the Mormon genealogy, what don't they know is amazing. I would hook into, and it's free. Try to find your family if you can there. And the paper trail often goes dry. But if you can hook into somebody else's work, then it might bring a few hundred years to the table for you. DNA is a terrific avenue these days, but I would definitely go to the Mormons if that would be my first port of call. And try to find cousins, and just be careful that you don't go down a wrong road. Quadruple check your line of inquiry. I'm not a genealogist. I do get inquiries, will you help me find my family? I don't have the time to do that. That's not what I do. I focus on history. But the families involved are key. They're all related in some way or another.
Yep.
That
was just she was talking about putting their name so they can get their name shown when they're asking a question, so we know better who's talking. So yeah, so you mentioned that back in the day it would have been a volatile place to try to live, especially in a castle. Back in that time frame would have been crazy with all that stuff going on. But then again, nowadays, for yourself, I'm so jealous because you get to go and visit these places that I can only hear about and see the pictures that you share with us on your website and stuff. So
I'm
that's
so
really
blessed.
cool.
I am. I'm
so
so
jealous.
fortunate.
It's like I want to go see these places for myself.
It's not always easy, but living in England for 20 years, I've learned so much. I've absorbed so much. I've crawled all over castles and stately homes and museums, and examined carvings and paintings, and gotten to know the key families involved. And but briefly speaking of families, Limoges was the first to write down and claim that their ancestor was Melusine, a shape-shifting mermaid out of Dark Age legend. So, and the book John and I are working on now, I've been working on this for some time now. I had to put it away for a bit. I ended up looking after my mother pretty well around the clock for a year and a half. So everything went on hold. Yep. Absolutely everything went on hold. But re-engaging, and it's so odd. I have found a synchronistic hand in all of this, that delays often prove to be so beneficial. So having had a chance to compare my notes with John has just brought this up to a level that has truly inspired me and surprised me. So
yeah, we can't wait. We really can't wait to get more information about this. I know that's I'm excited. I'm excited for both of you to be working together to put this out. And John and I we've talked about this before. If only that we could get people to researchers. Many are so guarded, and I understand it's kind of like a treasure. hunt. You get guarded like Fred and Dan, get very guarded about the information they have, not wanting to share it with anybody and locking it away in a secret cabinet.
You could be doing anything else and probably be earning a better and have a better financial, more predictable financial future.
True. I mean,
and finding a true piece of historical information, to take your, if you want to be a penniless hermit, go ahead and give it away. But it is incredibly important. Some of these discoveries can lead to treasure, which is what we all hope.
Yep.
Rick and Marty will find.
Yes.
Sure. On Oak Island.
Yep.
But with that said, I am happy to see a button come out of the ground. Further dating on wood coming out of the ground, because it builds up a story. We know what's happening there, and we can narrow down time frames, people, families. The mysterious Samuel Ball, and it was such a touching episode to have his descendants come to the island.
Yep.
That was a fantastic episode.
Yeah. There's a neat question for you. Have you ever visited Red House, William Morris?
I wish I could say yes. There's so much I have not seen yet. But William Morris was part of the arts and crafts movement, but he was associated with the Pre-Raphaelite movement. And that is the group of Victorian painters who I believe the core founding members were a secret society amongst themselves. I'm not going to go into that here because that's new information. But on my Patreon account, I have exclusive information on my visit to the church where Dante Gabriel Rossetti was buried, with a fabulous Celtic cross and these romantic images out of the past. But the Pre-Raphaelites, and William Morris keys into that, he created these beautiful wallpaper patterns that you can still get today. They're very expensive, but nature was their focus. And they were worried that the industrialization and mechanization and pollution was causing us to lose our grip, our connection to nature. So the paintings and William Morris's designs, curtains, everything, wallpaper, it was all about the minute detail of Mother Nature, the beautiful almost photographic detail of leaves, of grass, of the sun on water, and Arthurian themes, and fairies and Greek myths, but it was always set within nature or the beauty of classical architecture. So hopefully I'll be able to see that house, William Morris's haven, at some point. But there's so much I've seen, so much I haven't seen.
Yeah. John, so tell us a little bit. I mean, I know we're saying that we don't want to have you give up the secrets of your book. I mean, but what can you share? I mean,
I would say so much of it is looking at it from both a pragmatic point of view with the actual relationships, the connections with families and houses and things of that sort, and some of it is looking at it symbolically, and maybe how they communicate it within families and societies. So it's twofold. It's really trying to make those connections through the families, and what was it that they coveted? What information did they covet? What was it that they were trying to transmit to one another? And how does that relate to Oak Island possibly? Because it takes, and as Gretchen was saying, it takes a village. And it's more about sharing what researchers sharing with one another to solve this whole thing, to solve the mystery. But so much of it is steeped in this history in these houses, both French royalty and English royalty, that you have to kind of vet. And the toughest part in Gretchen is vetting all the sources.
I can't imagine what you go through.
And so we're vetting, and we continue to vet, and then we bounce off each other and say, does this make sense? Is this logical? Is this not logical? Oh, this is what this is saying symbolically. And then looking on my behalf, looking at a symbol and what the history of that symbol going straight through, and then seeing if that symbol is exactly what they use to communicate more esoteric knowledge. To me, that's very fascinating. So it's a kind of a twofold process where a lot of Gretchen and I's work overlaps, and then she brings to the table this wealth and this rich tradition and knowledge of the Templars. I bring kind of the symbolic aspect of it, the fraternity aspect of it, the secret society aspect of it, and we're blending it all together. And a lot of our material started overlapping based on when Gretchen and I met this past summer. And we knew we had something, and we said, well, you know what? We have to start sharing this information, because some of the things we were coming to, she was coming at from a different direction than I was. And we're like, wait, but we're saying the same thing. We're seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then we call them jaw droppers, where we just like looked at each other and like what just happened? And when I'm rarely quiet, but when I have nothing
you were
to say,
speechless, really?
I was, sometimes I get that way, I'm just like, I can't, because you're digesting what you've just realized.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's some of the epiphanies that Gretchen and I have shared are just they're bringing you to silence, and you're like, wow, is that really what's meant? And then after you have the epiphany and the insight, then you have to go back and vet it to make sure what you're saying is correct. Yep. And that's the toughest part, is the vetting process of any research that you do. And Gretchen's just an ace at it. She's just fantastic. So she brings all that. She brings all that to the table, and I'm bringing my expertise and niches to the table. And having studied, symbol secret societies, Templar history, and all that for 30 some years, it's just a nice mesh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that, John! Yes,
I had to throw it.
No, I actually have been stunned in the past, 6 months, where I haven't had anything to say. And I was just like, wow, I just can't believe what we just realized.
Well, and it's really something for me to have met both of you in person when we were, at another location, and watching you two work together at that place. And I was really amazed, because I'm not really a I'm not really I'm kind of an armchair researcher. I'm kind of an armchair researcher, but and you guys do all the hard work on this stuff. But really, when I met you two in person last September and watching you two work together, I just knew that you guys were going to collaborate and work on something together and come up with something really cool. And I can't wait to see. And I know, folks, you guys, when this book gets done, it's going to be great. And I'm really, really looking forward to this coming out. That, and you said something, you were talking about that, John, and I think Gretchen, you kind of keyed on it too, is that especially with the Oak Island story, when you take the Oak Island story and you have so many different researchers that have either presented, or even many that have not presented their theory of what's going on Oak Island and who, what, why, when, and where. But so many of you have bits and pieces that may work together. And you, if you were able to put these great minds that you guys have together, if to work together, and again, I was saying, Fred and Dan having that feud over treasure, everybody, researchers generally have that kind of feeling, but to work together, I mean, you guys could solve this. You could. I know you can. How to do that, though? How to get everybody to work together on it?
Well, over 9 years so far, we've all had the chance to sit back and soak in what other theorists have done. Mm-hmm. Perhaps because of the archaeology, the dendrochronology, shift our theories a bit, which I've had to do. I no longer think the Templars created the money pit. That's not what the evidence seems to be showing. I do think they were there, but I don't think they did the money pit. And I'm certainly a proponent of multiple caches and visitations from the Vikings onward. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what we're doing as well. But there's so many intelligent people out there with incredible ideas who've done an awful lot of work. And we're all just fascinated and gripped by this story.
It is a truly fascinating story.
I think those of us with good hearts who appreciate the hard work of others are happy to collaborate to produce a result greater than just a singular. Mm-hmm. effort.
Yep.
So,
and really, it takes a consortium. As researchers, we all have our niches, but it's the overlap. And when you have the overlap, and you see it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different places in 4 or 5 different disciplines, and it's saying the same thing coming from different directions, and it's repeatable in the Bergsonian method, the scientific method, it's repeatable, you have something. It doesn't, much like Jake Roberts' codes.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It adds
repeatable.
to that story. Yeah, there's another piece coming in.
It's another piece. And he'll tell you when codes repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. Right. There's something to it. Gretchen, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to I think it was it Amy a moment ago, Optimus, whatever. This
Maximus,
is I can't remember.
Maximus.
Thank you. Do you think that's our clue? Do you want to spill, John?
It's up to you. Go ahead, Gretchen, if you like.
No, you go ahead.
No. It's
so, well, we've come up with a title for our work, and now I've suddenly
blank.
Okay, you might have to help me, John. I can't even say the title of our own book, Magnum Mysterium and the Case for Oak Island. Again, that would be Magnum Mysterium and the Case for Oak Island.
Yep, that's it. And in the Latin it's Magnum, which is great, and Mysterium is mystery, the great mystery, in the Case for Oak Island. And we're looking at not only the pragmatics and the connections, but we're also looking at the symbolic history there, and maybe what was being transmitted or given or held through these secret societies, through these families, through the lineages and connections like that, and moving that forward. It's both denotation and connotation, and so we're really investigating that whole thing. And what is it that is so important to all these families and societies and organizations, secret societies and organizations that's on Oak Island?
Yeah, and that's it. And again, we go back to that whole thing, and you guys have heard me say this many times. Would we love to see them pull up a big treasure of gold and jewels and silver and stuff out of the money pit? Yes, we all would. Would we like to see them be able to clamp on with a hammer grab onto something big and pull it up out of there in whole, like a whole room or something like that, or a vault or something? Yes. But to get the history, to get the story of the people who've been there and why were they there, what were they doing there, and what did they leave behind, or what did they take with them when they left? I mean, this is what I want to know. I am eager for that mystery, that story to be solved, and for you guys to be able to add to this is just phenomenal. I really applaud you both to work together. Like I said, I knew you guys were gonna at some day we're gonna work together on this, and here you are, and it's great to see.
And it's a great collaboration. And again, we reach out to other people. Researchers always talking to researchers, and it takes a village. I've said this over and over and over again. It takes a village. It takes a cooperation between researchers, whether we think each other's niches is correct or incorrect. It's that mutual respect and that mutual sharing. Because maybe we disagree with things. Fine, that's not an overlap. But when we do agree, and 3 or 4 or 5 of us agree on this, or in the general ballpark with the same points, it means something. How are we coming up with the same conclusions or similar conclusions? It might not be exactly the same, but similar conclusions. You're on the right track.
Sarah Jane, hello.
Hey.
Yeah, she said, I don't know much about Oak Island, but I do think there is a Templar connection between Lord Talmond and the other American sites via the symbol of the trout and the constellation Cepheus. That I don't know anything about. I don't know if you guys wanted to...
I said thank you, Sarah Jane. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that is. I don't know anything about that. Let's see. And I did want to say too, and again, I don't know who all has come in and left or whatever, but if you were expecting to see Graham Phillips, he was supposed to be here today, and we think that he was hit by the big storm over in the UK and has taken the power out there. And I did see a message that said, I think Susan or somebody had, I think it was a Susan, that had said that the power is supposed to be restored to most of those folks tomorrow afternoon. So hopefully everything is okay with Graham. Hopefully he is well and not harmed by all of this 122-mile-an-hour winds that went through that area. So hopefully he's okay and he will get his power back on if that is the issue, and we will get him rescheduled as soon as possible. So I just wanted to throw that in there as we're kind of, and again, I asked Gretchen and John here to jump in real quick, and because I knew they were working on this book, I said, hey, why don't you jump in here real quick, John, and let's talk. They were not prepared for this at all. So
we were hoping Graham might show up at the
we were hoping Graham might still pop
hour,
in. But yeah, I know. I was checking. He has not even read the message that I sent to him.
Power's absolutely out.
Let's see. So yeah, unfortunately, he's not even read it. So that means he's not even getting it right now. The message that I sent to him yesterday and today about today's show. So we just hope he's okay, that everything's okay there, and he gets his power back. Let's see. What else do you want to share? Anything else? I know you sent me another picture. We were talking about the constellations. And
I sent you photographs I took at Chateau de la Rochefoucauld.
Oh, okay.
If you, John, do you have anything you'd like to?
No, John sent a picture of it. We were talking about the constellation.
Yeah, the constellations.
Send over this one.
That one.
What did you want to talk about on this
one? Well, what's interesting, there's Cassiopeia, and there's Cygnus, and Cygnus is associated with Oak Island, and then in the vicinity of one another. So it's just an interesting anomaly, as I put it, that those two constellations are very close, and they both may have something to do with Oak Island. Let me just put it that way. As these constellations, let's say, Gretchen, could I say they're being vetted? That's a nice way of saying we're still inquiring.
That's a nice way of saying we're not going to tell you.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience.
All right.
It's important to put these concepts down in the proper format, professionally, and then release them publicly. And until you can take that step to put them together professionally in a releasable format, there are things that one just doesn't want to disclose yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. This is one of the pictures you sent me, Gretchen. Is this the Rochefoucauld?
It is, yes. That's one of my photographs. The sky was just this incredible, intense blue. It was quite warm that day. And it's a beautiful place. It truly is. And it's a composite of Dark Age up through medieval fortress. And then you have the more fairy tale-esque Renaissance additions to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have quite a few separate architectural styles and eras being represented here.
Yeah, it looks like this old portion here.
Yes.
Back
And
here in the top. Wow, that's fascinating. I'd love to go and see this.
It's beautiful. And so this has been in the same family's hands for 900 years, and they have acquired beautiful works of art, have had famous painters, paint their own images. They upgraded the castle when I think was it Louis XIV came to visit, the Sun King.
Oh, wow.
If I might be misremembering that, but it was close around that era. And of course, there are no actual foundation stones, as has been said on the program, but it's sitting on a rock bed, solid rock bed, and underneath is they're calling it Melusine's Grotto today, but this, what might have been the dungeons at one point, or but if you remember Rick and his nephew, nephews
Alex
went down there. And Doug Kroll was there. I was actually quite touched. I did write to them ahead of time and said, I am coming. Might I ask a few questions of either whoever protects the archive, works with the archival materials, or a guide, whatever might be available if you're not busy. So, crossing my fingers, but I said, I am coming. I thought if all I get is a photograph of the exterior, then I will have gained. And that actually I did. And I took some remarkable photographs. Now, I must have around 500 plus photographs of the chateau.
Cool.
but it's I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, I was just
Yes.
going to say, was this for sale at one point, or is it still for sale? I thought
No,
we heard
no, there was a chateau in the area that was for sale, but it wasn't this one.
Oh, okay,
This is
all right.
still, this still is belongs to the, well, the new Duke, Duchess Sonia Matosian is the curator, and her son is the Duke. And I met the young Duchess. They have a young family. She's beautiful, and I was very aware that this is a family home. The family is involved in giving tours, and the younger Duchess, lovely woman, she very graciously took me around, unlocked the library, unlocked the archive, the map room. She even gave my business card to Sonia Matosian. And I wasn't expecting anything, I hadn't heard back from them. They hadn't replied to my messages, but I was granted what felt like an audience. It's the only way I can describe it. I had 10 minutes with Sonia Matosian, and remarkable individual, very petite. And I'm fairly tall. But she's just this tiny woman with the ferocity of a lioness guarding her legacy, her home, her 900 years of family history, and she's going to pass it down to her, her son in better shape than. So all I can say is she was ferocious. Wow. and I just found myself standing up straighter, being very polite, probably more so than normal. But she was very generous with her time, and I truly appreciated it. And she shared things with me that I'm not going to impart. I view them as business, private matters, and private, personal matters. Very elegant looking woman, and I was grateful to have the time with her. But they treated me very, very well and very, very graciously. But yes, this stonework here, the carvings. I believe these might be images of children of a younger generation, but you'll find initials, the initials A, the initials F, the faces of children. Triangles are important.
I noticed there's quite a few.
Yeah, there are triangles all over the castle, and it's fascinating. This stairwell, or this arched doorway, this is the entry into the castle from an open square courtyard in the back. You can't see it from the front, the photograph I showed you earlier, but this is behind, and there's this huge inner courtyard where there's this incredible vista over the valley below and the village. But this is the Da Vinci stairwell. Now, yes, the lettering I will explain in the book. Those are the initials of the married couple, Duchess, the Duke and Duchess. I believe this is during the Renaissance period. No, 1520 when this was done. When the stairwell went in, and it's of a Renaissance style. Now, or was it 1560? Leonardo da Vinci had passed by this time. I think this is 1560. And so he had passed, but the design of the stairwell is his. And there were only about 16 of these stairwells that grand chateaus such as this were able to afford to install. And this is, so you can see that the stairwell is kind of spiraling upwards.
Yeah, I can see it going down around the corner, and then it goes up this way.
Yeah, and then it goes up. And you can see just below there, do you see the window? There's a chest there. It is old. It's got to be 1500s. It might be the same era as the stairwell. Wow. But there is a figure carved on it that I didn't understand till I came home and looked at my photographs. And I was astonished when I realized what I was looking at. And the scene is the ancestress of the family line, and the Limoges. I'm getting it confused. Limoges, Limousin. Forgive me, Judy Rudabush. I'm sure you'd be able to set me straight.
You probably know, yeah.
Melusine is the ancestor of these two great noble houses in France. The Rochefoucauld family rose to become dukes, which is near to being a prince in hierarchy level. In fact, a lot of princes are dukes. So this they were so close to the crown. Goodness, they could have ended up on a throne. They were so high up the aristocratic ladder. And as you all know from having watched The Curse of Oak Island, Court Lindahl discovered the voyage of the Duc d'Envie, the founding father connections, the whole nine yards, and the importance of this family in Nova Scotia at the time of the revolution and the wars over Nova Scotia. And this family was in the middle of that history. But it's a beautiful stairwell. To be honest, I just couldn't believe that I was there.
I know, I would be fascinated.
I really do. Still, it feels like a dream, and it's so beautiful and so well presented. It is truly a work of art. Did I have access to the library in the castle? I did, yes. At Chateau de la Rochefoucauld, yes. But what I was given a tour, and they had other duties that day. I told them what day I was arriving, and the young Duchess, she treated me like an honored guest, and I felt privileged. So it was interesting to look at the map room that's usually under lock and key, these long, deep, wide drawers. The maps within these drawers are still there that were used in battles, historical battles. Maps being incredibly important for strategy, and accuracy of maps is important, or you could lose the battle. Sonia Matosian was very hesitant with her information, and I will say this: I do not blame her. Anybody who has looked into the Rennes-le-Château story knows what trouble it caused over the since the 70s, at least, in southern France. People going down there with shovels and buckets, digging up the landscape, looking for treasure, to the point where the French government had to say, right, nobody gets to dig.
That's it, yeah.
And one, the Nicolas Poussin painting, I Am in Arcadia. Yeah, Shepherds of Arcadia. That stone sarcophagus, that is a real place.
Wow.
But the landowner was so fed up with people coming and digging on his land, looking for whatever, for treasure, for secrets, whatever. He destroyed the sarcophagus.
Oh,
he
really?
So fed up. So I do feel a twinge, I have to say, by contributing to the fame of the chateau. At the same time, I think that whatever had been there of historical significance has now been moved on, whether that is informational, having to do with the Duc d'Envie's voyage to Nova Scotia, where he perished on the way, sadly, and he's now interred. I can't remember the name of the church that he's buried in Nova Scotia in, but beautiful monument to him there. But the information pertinent to that episode and perhaps older episodes, I don't believe is there any longer. So
wow, that's bad.
But it is, with that said, you can pay under €5, spend as long as you would like in the chateau, and look at artwork that spans centuries.
That would be awesome. I know that one of our Facebook users, I believe this was Bill Kelly, asked this about another cathedral. I didn't
Yeah,
know which. Yeah.
I went through there on my way down south, and yes, that actually is. I've got some information on my Patreon page about that, my own photographs, etc., and an article about that. But the blue glass is interesting, and that's been a phenomenon now for a few decades. The blue glass is of high value. The technology of that, it seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. My theory on that, if I may, if the Templars found the Ark of the Covenant on Temple Mount, there would have been a covering of blue fabric. Now, I'm just surmising, would they have discovered, if this is all the case, a fragment of that blue fabric? It would have been deep under Temple Mount. It would have been protected from temperature swings, hidden from the elements, etc. If any of it had survived, then it could have been a template for the color used at Chartres Cathedral, Saint Denis Cathedral as well. The blue has always been remarked upon, so that is a theory that I expressed to. I probably shouldn't say
Okay.
it.
That's all right. That's interesting. Wow.
I expressed to aliens that blue fabric may have been the inspiration between Chartres Cathedral. That part of my interview did not air, and that was about a good 2+ hour interview on my thoughts on Chartres Cathedral. But you also have the as you approach, is it the North Portal? As you're approaching the portal, off to the right, you have this really strange carving of a cart and treasures being moved. And in Latin underneath it says, paraphrasing, here you must work through the ark. And the scene is about the Babylonian captivity, where, was it Babylonian or the Philistines? It might have been the Philistines, but that looted and took the ark at one juncture, according to biblical texts, and the ark became violent, killed a lot of people, made a lot of people sick, to the point where the Philistines said, "Right, you just take it back."
Yeah, give it back. I remember that. Yeah.
And it was the tribe of Levi that were the genetic caretakers of this sacred object.
Yep.
So anyway, but it's quite a strange comment. So you've got the color blue in the stained glass window. You've got the sacred treasures being moved, having been looted. You have this odd phrase, here you must work through the ark. And then inside you've got the labyrinth, the famous labyrinth, where it's thought that if you are in walking meditation, where you are in meditation, prayer practice, perhaps of a Templar tradition, the Templars played a large hand in the creation of this cathedral. So is it possible that some of their traditions were enacted in the cathedral? Were they of mind, body, and emotion as they walked the labyrinth to finally come into the center of having these three elements of your being come together and to be expressed in union with God, the all that is?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, that seemed like a ritual that would definitely happen.
Yes. Just we have an image of that while Gretchen's talking.
Oh, okay.
Bring it up. I just
sent the last one you just sent?
The labyrinth. Yep.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
So it's used for prayer and meditation, and it's really how to contemplate the mysteries of God in many ways.
Yeah. Yes. Yes,
Yep,
there it
there it
is.
is.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Unfortunately, when I was there, it was covered with chairs.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to take a photograph of a corner of it, but that is spectacular.
Wow.
And but I think that it's quite, if one would like to print this pattern out, you can actually print out a diagram of this online, do a search for it, and you can use your finger to trace as you are saying a prayer that might be important to you, or a meditation that might be important to you, and you through that means can perhaps in some small way immerse yourself in this sacred location where the ark may have passed through.
Wow. That's so cool.
At the time when the Templars were coming back to Paris in triumph after their 9 years of digging under Temple Mount. There were only a handful of them, 9 original knights, some say
Right.
11 original knights. They couldn't have been doing much guarding of the roads and pilgrims at that juncture.
Correct.
But they came home and they were heroes overnight. But the Templar headquarters in Paris had not been completed by then, their fortress, their stronghold. So they had to put it somewhere. And it is possible that it rested here for a while on its way further north, and possibly resided at Saint Denis, which was just north of Paris, now included in Paris. It's such a large city now. But and then, of course, as the story goes, it's possible that, according to legend and lore, it ended up in Scotland. And some theorists think it went to the New World. So, as we've seen, Alan Butler and Kathleen McGowan discuss that theory in, was it season 3? I don't recall. Something like that. Glastonbury Connection to the Labyrinth cut in Glastonbury Tour, an older tradition of walking meditation. Well, yeah, there's no religion is born out of the ground fully formed. It does some of it, parts of it, as John Edwards said earlier, hinges upon prior traditions, and human beings are built only one way. We've got a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs. So certain things work for us and certain things don't. And
right, I'll bring that back up in a minute. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so some practices of quieting the monkey brain, the to-do list that today it's called mindfulness. Oh, I forgot to do that. I got to do that. I got to hurry and do this, and yada yada. It's just taking that moment out and putting yourself in a different place. Whatever your belief system may be. You might not have a belief system, but here we're talking about sacred locations steeped, they're in the Christian world that have anomalies. You've got the early Catholic story, but you have these micro heresies as well, with people, the Lombards, the Cathars, everybody having their different ideas as to who Jesus was, and the Catholic Church trying to, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
And then, of course, you get the Reformation coming in, and Martin Luther, and all these other big changes that come in. So it can be a real mess.
yeah, for sure.
It can be very confusing, but these locations are so special. They're so you can't help but feel as if you are in a divine spiritual place.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
Just,
I do. I still want to go there. This was Luke brought up a question here, or a statement, I guess. Why would they hide it? And that's true, not logical. All artifacts found in the Crusades had always been exposed in cathedrals or church. And this was the way for notoriety. Right, exactly. To prove how powerful they were to display it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And case in point, when I think his last name was it Villiers, Commander Villiers, who was arrested the night of the 12th of October. He had 150 men, 3 carts of gold. He left the Paris temple, and he did get arrested. The king absorbs that spendable treasure. And if he'd found something of a spectacular nature, he would have bragged about it to uphold his what he thought was divine right to rule. Philip was an absolute monarch, which in England in England they were getting away from that. Even Edward I, the Hammer of the Scots, he was steeped in building and creating law and ruling with his barons. Chartres, yeah, that's it, Chartres blue. But Luke had a really terrific point. Some of these things are erring into mysteries. I like to look at the hard practicals first, but there are also, what's the motivation? The motivation behind the Templars is flat out belief in something so profound that they risked their lives in a way that was above and beyond the other orders. The other military orders, they were, wow, brave, incredible, but the Templars have a mystique about them because of their ferocity, of their belief in what they held sacred. So now, John, may I say this out loud? What treasures do you think are you willing to talk about? The treasures that you're going to be discussing in your research in the book, or would you rather not discuss that right now?
I'm going to hold off right now, but I do think there were holy relics that the Templars did acquire. I'll put it that way. I do think that it proved to be a threat to the Vatican at some point, because with those treasures came what I refer to as a dueling dogma, or a dueling belief. And I've discussed it on Jake's show, Jake Roberts, Ghost of Bacon, about the divinity within oneself, and how to actualize that divinity. Well, you don't want to hear that if you're an institution where salvation has to go through you in the hierarchy to reach heaven. But there's that whole ascendant master. Yeah, there's the whole ascendant master aspect of it, and you see it in Rosicrucian, Bexonian belief systems that you can easily decipher if you understand the basic ciphers. I think this is exactly what the Templars, or Bacon and the whole order, Rosicrucian order, inherited from the Templars. I think it makes its way into speculative masonry, into masonry and then Freemasonry, and you have the Cathars sitting there, and you have the Cistercians sitting there. I think these are all branches of the same line of thought. I've said that before, and so what is it? What is it that they knew? And I really think if you say you don't need a church to have a relationship with God, that you can have this relationship with the God element within you, or the I am principle. And I'm not saying you are God. I'm saying, but God underpins all things. So, if that's the belief, that poses a threat to the church. Whatever they had as far as that belief system, and whatever they found under Temple Mount. And then you have to ask, who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe a dogma, where you have indulgences, you have corruption, or are you going to believe the organization with the relics that prove it? And so if there's any esoterics that comes out of that same tradition of what's under Temple Mount that the Templars would have found, and relics, it certainly explains why there was a big following all of a sudden. And it certainly explains why they became fabulously wealthy, among other reasons. People were giving them land and wealth beyond measure. They were the first bankers, as pilgrims went back and forth from Jerusalem, and you take the money, make sure they have safe passage, give them back the money minus your fee, and they were the caretakers for that pilgrim route between Europe and Jerusalem. So there's a whole line of thought there, and there's a whole hidden esoteric there that I think has made it through the secret societies all the way up into even some of the modern Freemasonry and other organizations. I'll say it that way. But yeah, there are relics involved.
Yeah. It's interesting what Jan just said here too. And I wanted to take a moment to plug the to plug the no, we weren't talking about the Ark, or you weren't talking about the Ark. You were talking about the Grail. But again, kind of this right here, that we know that there were a lot of different people looking for the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail over the
Yeah,
course of
yeah.
time.
Mm.
The documentary that John and Court Lindahl are working on, that I've been asked to do the voiceover for narration, and I'm really proud about that. I'm really happy about that. We did, the trailer is out, that it's on Court Lindahl's Facebook page, or YouTube channel. I'm sorry, YouTube channel, and I think you can actually find it on Court's Facebook. The link for it there too.
It's excellent.
Yeah, and I was asked to narrate this, and I'm just overjoyed by that. But it talks about a very, the Nazi looking for the Holy Grail, and they were also looking for the Ark of the Covenant. Yes, it's kind of you go back to the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's what that was about, and Otto Rahn, and what his involvement. So, yes, there were a lot of wars that were fought over these things, especially the Ark of the Covenant, because they figured if they had it, they would be the most powerful. They would defeat everybody, right? So everybody
Yeah.
wanted to get their hands on it.
Yeah.
Thank goodness it's not to be found yet.
Yes. It's I brought up the Ark because of the color, in the biblical or the description of the fabric covering it is blue.
Covering. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, a bit of speculation there, but based on sacred text. So, and I'm certainly not the first to float the concept of the Ark, having been brought to France, and then it's been carried off. Now, if maybe we shouldn't open that kettle of worms. That was Luke, that's probably going to take us an hour.
I like my face. I don't want my face to suddenly melt off, because
I know. Yeah, don't open the Ark.
Jeff, I did give you a picture of the Ark, image on the Ark of Titus, 81 AD. Is
that this one here?
Yeah.
One second. The one you just sent?
Yep. And you can see that was one of the things that the Romans' victory over Judea by Titus, and that's called the Ark of Titus. And there you have it right there. And that is the menorah being carried off by the Romans. So, when we talk about, historically, and that's in a relief, that's in the Ark of Titus. When we talk about things that might have been carried off, that was one of the things that has been recorded as being carried off. That there was more than one menorah. There were several menorahs.
Right.
I think there was actually a dozen of them. I may be wrong on that, but at least 10. But
it's
they were said.
Yeah, it's easier to get our head around that than the Ark.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, John. I didn't mean to.
No. It's fine. And so they were literally carrying them off, and this is representative of the light of God. And so literally, you're pillaging the light of God from the temple, and So we know that there are artifacts out there that are missing historically, and the question is, did the Templars themselves, why in Jerusalem, actually find one of the menorahs that sat in the original temple? But that's what it looks like. So there's a lot of stuff being vetted. There's a lot of stuff we're researching. But this is one of the mysteries, that where did the menorahs go? And no one knows. They haven't been seen. Although in one of the seasons, I think Rick really jumped into the swamp thinking he was going to pull the menorah right out from the bottom of the swamp. I remember him, and he's ruining his cell phone, and he just jumps right in. He's like, I think it was when Pedro was on. And so there is maybe, is this one of the artifacts that Oak Island has? And that still remains to be proven. But there's been researchers that have used the menorah to trace certain theories about the swamp area. That have been on Oak Island. So that still remains to be seen if there's something that is on Oak Island or not. But there is certain theorists that do have that claim. And I'm not saying they're wrong, and I'm not saying they're right. It needs to be vetted, and it's going to come down to the archaeology of it and the dating of it.
Right.
What you're pulling from the swamp, the wood, the artifacts, the metals, and dating it, and trying to see if it corresponds with anything, that would be that old. I mean, wasn't there a board just recently pulled out of the swamp that's 220 AD?
Yeah, it was 250 240 to 376,
okay, 240
242 to 376, I think, something like that. So that goes
So
way
that
back.
goes way back. And where did it come from? Was it the First Nation, or was it something that was an import from Europe or even further back? Who knows? But our dates are getting further and further and further
I
back,
know.
which
Yeah.
is even more exciting. So
yeah, and that's when Marty told Craig, "Stop bringing, don't bring any more dates into this, any more time frames like that." Yeah, it's crazy. This, it could very well be, and this is another one of those things that did the Templars when they were weren't they given when they went into Jerusalem, they were given another chapel or a building next to the Temple Mount, correct, or right there in the same area.
Yeah,
Like
that platform is huge. That
yeah.
platform is massive.
And then they supposedly went underneath, and they dug down, and supposedly they found something. And if they found the menorah there, or one of these many menorahs, and also the Ark of the Covenant, maybe the Holy Grail, and they took them out
Text,
of there.
ancient information, ancient documents.
Right.
It smacks of conspiracy, because you have these 9 knights who are in a new order that has not been tested,
right,
and they are given prime real estate, next to the palace, practically, with access to the king. So what's going on here? And of course, the main mover and shaker of Europe at the time, in my estimation, Bernard de Clairvaux. I've done a lot of research on him. He's incredible. I do a lot of, he occupies a good 5 or 6 chapters in here. But he took the failing Cistercian order and basically put swords in the hands of his monks to create the Templar order. Hugh de Payen, of course, cannot be sidelined, but I do believe that Hugh worked very closely with Bernard de Clairvaux, who sent him on a mission to retrieve sacred artifacts from Temple Mount.
Yeah, and then I think that this was Judy Rudebush had put up that, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Osca Mosque.
Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Yeah, so I think that was the one, and thank you, Judy, for that. I think that was the one. But I mean, is it hard to believe that the Vatican would ask them to go to Jerusalem and go look for these things and bring it back to them? Is that?
I am not sure if it was the Vatican. I think it was Bernard de Clairvaux.
See, there you go.
Okay.
So,
yep, that's correct.
And why would he want these things?
Hugh de Payen.
Yeah.
Well, I think they knew where they were there.
Yeah.
The probability was high that now Bernard de Clairvaux was a scholar. He went toe to toe with Peter Abelard, who was also an academic. Some claim he was a better academic than Bernard de Clairvaux, but they dueled with their minds, of course. But no, I think that Bernard knew, suspected there could be something very, very important there, and he wanted to retrieve it. And I think he retrieved something of incredible value. And we're debating about the nature of that now.
Right. Exactly right.
And I love this statement by Mary. The artifacts that were in La Rochelle, France, of which it's been alleged that there were 18 ships. Alleged.
No.
Gretchen, you have something. Okay, Gretchen, go ahead.
No, not alleged. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I like this, Mary. Thank you. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. Okay, that drives me nuts. All right. Okay. So here we are. This young Templar knight is being questioned, and his testimony, and of course Templars, this is a young man, were trained to tell the truth, and probably in a great state of denial, and thinking, if I tell the truth, then maybe it will be okay, the Pope will save us, this is all going to get cleared up, right? No. But so he says the Templars owned 18 ships at La Rochelle. He didn't say leased, borrowed, fantasy land. Owned. Now not every every Templar holding or commandery is going to have a ship. A lot of Templar locations are landlocked. So you're not, if you've got a location in inner France or up in mid England, Cressing Temple last summer, there's no room for a sailing vessel, a sea-going vessel there. But in Jerusalem, in Israel, the last stand of the Templars, Acre, Acre, the Venetian quarter is right next to the Templar fortress. They would lease from the Venetians, or they actually bought vessels, depending on their needs. And each temple acted as a cell. So they were varying levels of wealth, depending on where it was, what productivity they had access to. They were part of the merchant guilds. So I think we have to take this young man's testimony as direct. And they owned these ships, therefore they had the free capacity to go where they willed on the 12th of October.
Right. So. And there's people like, I'll just say the initials SW that completely throw all this out the window and say there's no truth to it at all. And I think, but there is.
Good for him.
There is, so.
That's nice.
Huh?
Forgive me, I'm being very unprofessional somewhat.
So, but I'm glad you brought that up because, again, it was, people say, oh, no, there's just so many that say there was alleged to be, they leased them. Like you said, they weren't theirs. They got them from somebody else, let them borrow them or whatever, so that's very interesting. And I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. That's a very good point to bring into this whole story because, why would he say that? I mean, I think it's true. I really do. And
then where does the Templar treasure go? Where does the treasure of the Templars go? Certainly the Robert the Bruce was excommunicated at the time, in Scotland, and that would be one location. And then you have the Order of the Christ in Portugal. That's the second location. Right. Does it wind around to any place else?
Well, Spain protected the Templars. Switzerland, that's been established.
Switzerland, of course, yeah.
It's I've been made aware of a location, the Benedict Valley in Livorno, Italy. I will be speaking with Lucas Santoni, who was born there. And he has been researching the Templars in that area for a long time and has produced 2 documentaries on them with 3 more to go. And I apologize, I missed that last comment.
Oh, I'll bring it back up here. Yeah, it was Luke again. That I'm not sure of. I'm not familiar with those places. So
they also had Tortos. Oh, that's a new one for me, Luke. I'm not familiar with that location.
Yeah.
After St. Jean, who resist a time after. Yes, I absolutely. Not all were arrested.
Right.
They did perpetuate, and because they were embedded in the merchant guilds. They were merchants. They organically spread out the way human beings do. Human beings adopt each other. Human beings take on customs. The Templars were supported by families, and it became a tradition. You would have families providing money to whatever level they could afford, and of course, they all had to be nobility. You had to be a knight already. You had to bring money in, but you had to, in Syria, actually,
Syria. I'm not sure.
Forgive us, Luke. We Americans really should have all learned a second language.
I know.
And I am still constantly embarrassed by that. I would like to. Yeah, thank you, Luke. You've got a lot of information because he lives there. Secrets got passed down, inherited between families and organizations, all leading to common locations. Yeah, and you're giving money to the order. You're giving products to the order. You're giving your sons, sometimes daughters.
Yep.
Rarely, but it did happen. Yeah, it's much more organic and easier to pass these traditions down than we've been allowed to believe and think.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And and the fact that a lot of their wealth was, I know that King Philip IV? Was he the one that got with the Pope and came after them? So
Yes.
I mean, I guess he wanted to get his hands on their treasure. For his own purposes, and I guess a lot of it was never found, right? I mean,
well, Philip was also in debt to the Templars,
right? Exactly,
massively,
so
and so
cancel that debt.
let's cancel the debt. You kill the people you're in debt with, and suddenly your debt's canceled. It's very mafia-esque. And he conspired with the Pope at the time to make that happen.
Exactly, and made up charges against the Templars. But was there? I mean, a lot of that treasure was never found. Correct? Is that what I'm?
Well, the Paris Temple was empty, so this is the it would be like emptying out Buckingham Palace. Prior to, I thought he meant Syria. That's quite something. They were there. Yes. Wow. Crusader castles in as far as Syria. Yeah. Yep. But yes, the oh my goodness, where did my big thought go to?
Well, what's interesting about that is that after the Templars, the dissolution of the Templars and the trial of the Templars 1213, you had all the Templar assets, which were Vatican assets at that point, handed off to the Hospitallers and the Knights of Malta. So those were the Templar replacements, the hand chosen of the Vatican. And at that point, that's where the Vatican assets went. Not to say there wasn't treasure, not to say that the Templars or the Templar refugees at the point, because they would be refugees, didn't go and redefine themselves elsewhere with whatever they had.
Yeah, the land was valuable, especially if it was farming, and that is often overlooked. You want to get your hands on a bread and butter business. So if you could get your hands on a Templar farm, then you're quids in, as they say over here.
Yep.
So that's practicality. That's practicality. And it took other researchers have found that in some cases it took 25 years. These properties were tied up in legal battles for a good 24, 25 years. I've done some research on that and found some interesting conclusions. I can't wait to share that with you, but I can't right at the moment. But I do think that Edward III of England, and it's not popular to talk about an English king being partial to the Templars. It's not. But I think that the founder of the Order of the Garter had Templar sympathies. And I look forward to sharing some of that with you. In another project I've got coming up when I can get to it.
I posted that for Tracy. Tracy was for whatever reason I didn't see it pop up over on the StreamYard. So I could bring it up, but Tracy made this comment here. I've not heard of those places, so just north of Lebanon.
Thank you, Tracy and Luke, for bringing that up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think he did it for beer. Who was that? That was Bill Kelly. Yeah,
that's a noble reason. A very noble reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. I tell you what, this has been fascinating. I'm going to ask you both for any last thoughts. But we actually, without Graham Phillips being here, and again, I want to say that one last time that Graham, we think that Graham had a power issue because there was a huge storms that went through the UK. Yesterday and last night, and we are fearful that he lost power there, and that's why we were trying to communicate with him today. We had nothing, and I believe that's why he was not available for the show today. So we apologize. We will get that rescheduled to get that back on. And thank you so much for John popping in and Gretchen coming up with something to talk about, which you guys are always awesome about. Thank you so much for that. Any final thoughts as we start to wrap this up? We're right at 2 hours. We did a 2-hour show and didn't even plan for it like this.
Well, just thank you for being with us tonight. I'm really happy to have a chance to talk to Jeff and talk to John, and it's always so energizing and inspiring. And looking forward to the next opportunity to share more information.
Yeah, and you two have a book coming out. What was the name again? That's going to
be the Magnum Mysterium and the Case for Oak Island.
Awesome. So, folks, when they get this book done, go ahead, John. Right. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's exactly it. She said it right, and really excited to vet it and really pull some resources, and it's going to be something special.
Yeah, think so. And I guess
heavily illustrated.
Good. Mm-hmm. I need picture books.
Yeah. We all do.
I love the picture books. I really do. So we're looking forward to that book coming out, and when it does become available, they're going to come here, I hope, and announce it and all of that and get it out. And of course, Court Lindahl and John working on the documentary of the basically, I think it's like the Relic Hunter for the Holy Grail, or I think it's I don't know if you got the full name on it. Well, it's a Holy Grail, the Search for the Holy Grail documentary. That's the teaser is out for that. It's on Court Lindahl's website. It's also on his Facebook or YouTube channel. If you want to watch the trailer, it's about 5 minutes long. And I was asked, and I'm honored to have been the guy doing the narration for that. So that was really cool. So if you want to check that out, please look for it at Court Lindahl, his YouTube channel. So, wow, this has been great. I thank you guys so much for filling in and coming up with great content at the last second. This has been fantastic, and everybody seemed to have loved it. A lot of people stayed around and, without Graham being here, but they stayed around anyway because you guys are so fascinating.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up, folks. Thank you so much. Again, we will get Graham Phillips rescheduled. We'll let you know about that as soon as we can. But thank you so much for being here today. If you'd like to help support the channel, JFree906, you can do so at patreon.com. And of course, it's JFree906 is my page there if you'd like to help support the channel. And if you like our content, please subscribe on the YouTube side there. And also give us a thumbs up if you like our content. That really does help us out. It helps out because YouTube will look at those. If we get a lot of thumbs up, they'll help to promote it as a next up, for things when people are looking Oak Island related or Templar related. We'll get like the next up, stuff. It just helps us to get it out to more people. So we really appreciate those thumbs up and that kind of thing. So, we do have, next week we have, providing that the weather is good and everything works out, Luca Santoni, which Gretchen will be co-hosting with me for Luca coming up. Luca Santoni, that'll be next Saturday at 2:00, providing that everything works out for that. We will get Terry DeVoe rescheduled. Terry was supposed to be last week, and I had internet problems. He is actually, we do have him rescheduled. I'm sorry. And I haven't written it on this calendar. I think it's the 12th. Linda, was it the 12th? I believe it was the 12th of March. We have Terry DeVoe rescheduled for the 12th of March at 2:00. And then, of course, Luca's next week. And then we have no Oak Island show this Wednesday, coming up on Wednesday. There's no Oak Island show on Tuesday, so we won't have one on Wednesday for that. So we will see you next Saturday. And looks like we get a week off to do some research, right?
Fantastic.
All right. Thanks again, John and Gretchen. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you right back here on the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. Bye-bye now.